Greetings, dear Ednews TV viewers. Today we have a special guest joining us from Istanbul, our former U.S. ambassador to Azerbaijan, Mr. Matthew Bryza. Welcome, Mr. Bryza.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be with you. Thanks for reaching out.
Thank you so much as well. And we have a pretty dense political situation currently going in the region and in the world as well. And let's begin for the first question. And I would like to ask about Georgia. As you might actually know that there is a rather tense situation in Georgia and currently ongoing regarding the foreign agent bill. And I would like to ask you a question that, if I'm not mistaken, 2 days before, the European Union have actually said in a statement that EU could actually delay its decision on Georgia's accession to EU. I would like to know your opinions about the current situation in Georgia and how will it affect the whole geopolitical situation. Can we actually see Russia gaining its influence towards the foreseeable future, let's say?
Sure. Well, and just to be precise, the European Union statement was that the passage of that law, the so-called foreign agent law, would set back the whole process of Georgia moving toward the EU. There's no, even if there wasn't a problem with that foreign agent law, the prospect for Georgia joining the EU is way off in the future. There are so many reforms that still have to take place, and aligning Georgian legislation with the European Union's acquis communautaire is a complex process. There are many chapters in the process, but I take at face value the EU statement. I know it's true. The same goes for Georgia's NATO aspirations. This is the chaos on the streets of Tbilisi right now plays exactly into Russia's geopolitical hands. As we know, Russia invaded Georgia in 2008, and it still occupies 20+% of its territory. And that all happened because Russia wanted to prevent Georgia from moving toward the West, toward the European Union and towards NATO. The current government in Tbilisi has taken many steps to weaken Georgia's connectivity with Europe. For example, they canceled the Anaklia port project, which was going to be a major port on the middle corridor that would have helped Georgia become a key link between cargoes coming from far to the east, even from China, across Central Asia and the Caspian Sea into Georgia and onward to the Black Sea and beyond. There was an American investment group that was moving forward with Georgian partners, and the current Georgian Dream government in Tbilisi just canceled. They chose to cancel that project without any real clear explanation, playing right into Russia's hands. In addition, there's a company called Caucasus Online. I happen to have been on the board of that company. It's an internet services provider based in Tbilisi. It was purchased by Nexo Holding, which has such strong Azerbaijani roots. And the Georgian government reversed that sale and nationalized the assets. So that was another step that played right into Russia's hands. And the Foreign Agents Law, there are claims that it's like the U.S. Foreign Agent Registration Act. It's nothing like that. The U.S. law says that if a person is representing the interests of another government, another country's government, to members of the U.S. government, that has to be disclosed, and then you're officially called, an agent, not like an intelligence agent, but there are two meanings of the word agent. You're a representative of another foreign country's government to U.S. officials. But what the Georgian law, like the Russian law says, is something totally different. It says if your organization receives 20% or more of its funding from a foreign source, then you are registered as a foreign agent. Your entire organization is a foreign agent. It's not that you're representing a foreign country simply because the money came from a foreign country. Now you are deemed to be a foreign agent, which is completely different from the American law. And so I think this is all an attempt by Russia to keep Georgia frozen in place geostrategically. But the Georgian political opposition has also not played its deck of cards, its hand, very well in recent years. Street protests are understandable when people get fed up with the situation. But as Georgia's president, Salome Zurabishvili, who will veto the law, by the way, said 2 days ago on CNN, she said, we need a future Georgia that's based on the democratic political process, not street protests, but the democratic political process, which means elections coming up this autumn. Unfortunately, after the last round of parliamentary elections, many of the Georgian top opposition parliamentarians refused ever to take up their mandate and do their job in parliament. Many of these people were friends of mine for years, but I'm so disappointed that many of these opposition parliamentarians decided essentially to boycott the parliament. You can't have a democratic society
Yes.
if democratically elected parliamentarians don't do their job. Yeah,
Just in short, there's an interesting idea going all around, and most certainly I would say probably in Azerbaijan and Russia media, Russian media and Azerbaijani media, saying that if Georgia stops the relationship with EU, if it goes towards Russia, like as Azerbaijan does, like balancing the relationship between Russia and Europe, they can actually see Russian armies withdraw from Abkhazia and Ossetia. How do you assess that thing? Just in short.
I think there's no chance of that. I think those are uninformed rumors. First of all, 85% of Georgia's population still wants Georgia to join NATO and the European Union. And the current government in Tbilisi knows that. And so you heard Bitsina Ivanishvili say a few weeks ago that NATO has lied and cheated Georgia because it promised Georgia and Ukraine would be members back during the Bucharest summit of 2008. And that still hasn't happened. And it's because the forces, the global forces of war and darkness are blocking Georgia. That makes no sense. The forces, the dark forces he's talking about are, he means the United States, of course, and the NATO alliance. Why would the US and the rest of NATO block Georgia from joining NATO? It makes no sense, but he knows that. He knows that. So he has to pretend like he's in favor of Georgia joining NATO and the European Union, but he's not in favor of that. But the Georgian people are. So he knows he can't resist the Georgian people's desire to move toward the West. And in any case, even if Ivanishvili and the Georgian government said, okay, we're not going to move toward NATO or the EU, there's still, I think, no way Russia would withdraw its forces from Abkhazia or South Ossetia because it doesn't know what's going to happen next in Georgia, obviously. And if Georgia becomes a puppet again, God forbid, of Russia, there will be more Russian forces in Georgia rather than fewer.
Thank you. Now I'm going to go towards the other two countries of the region regarding the negotiations between Azerbaijan and Armenia. And as it was reported before, talks between Azerbaijan Foreign Minister Ceyhun Bayramov and Armenian Foreign Minister Arat Mirzoyan were held in the Kazakh city of Almaty on May 10th to 11th. And the statement of the Azerbaijani foreign minister following the meeting in Almaty says that ministers welcome the progress in border delimitation and the agreements reached in this regard. And before that, Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan of Armenia have actually stated that it is indeed possible to gain peace deal, to sign a peace agreement between Azerbaijan until November. So I would like to ask you that will Baku and Yerevan sign a peace treaty by the end of the year or until November, let's say?
Well, nobody knows. You heard Prime Minister Pashinyan saying his ambition is to complete it by November. Why November? Because that's when Azerbaijan chairs COP29. President Aliyev, I've heard him with my own ears say repeatedly that Azerbaijan wants a peace treaty, is ready for the peace treaty. He at the Ada University conference just a few weeks ago, President Aliyev, he enumerated a whole series of positive steps in the peace process that have taken place. Beginning with Armenia lifting its veto on Azerbaijan becoming the chair of COP29, and then Azerbaijan reciprocating by lifting its veto on Armenia joining the COP process's Eastern European group. And additional things, positive steps have happened after that, just like you cited, the initial demarcation of part of the international border between Azerbaijan and Armenia, and then Pashinyan's agreement to return those 4 Azerbaijani villages to Azerbaijan. So the momentum is very positive. The downside is, of course, Pashinyan faces noisy opposition. There are protests now again daily on the
Yes.
streets of Yerevan with people hollering for him to resign. But that's a marginal group of Armenians. I think the vast majority of Armenians are coming to accept the truth. They lost the war. Azerbaijan won the war. These territories that have gone back to Azerbaijani control were always Azerbaijan's. They were illegally occupied, and this myth of a greater Armenia is just not going to come true. And it's time to move on,
Sorry
reach
for
peace.
interruption. I think like Pashinyan most certainly reforms the mentality of Armenia, like most certainly, because in Armenian history we can see the how does it the position of church being so strong that most people actually believe in that mentality. Now Pashinyan is
Yes,
actually trying to
I agree.
reform that mentality towards being peace with Azerbaijan and Georgia, or in the whole region, I would say. But obviously
There's no question about that.
no, no.
But the Armenian Apostolic Church and the Catholicos
Can it
has
actually
been one
affect?
of the leaders of the anti.
Can it actually affect
Yeah,
the
sorry.
current situation in Azerbaijan and Armenia? The whole protesting.
Oh, what was your question? Say it again.
Can the whole protesting actually affect the peace negotiations between Azerbaijan and Armenia?
Well, that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to, the demonstrators don't want peace, right? They want continued conflict with Azerbaijan. They, with the help of the Armenian Apostolic Church and its Catholicos, have convinced themselves that they need to fight another war against Azerbaijan and they will win. But that's a minority. It's a noisy minority. The rest of the country, as I was saying, knows that that's ridiculous. They know they lost the war and it's time to move on and have peace with Azerbaijan and reconnect Armenia to the regional economy. And I think that's gradually becoming the overwhelming choice of Armenians, but still there are these noisy opponents who believe in conflict with Azerbaijan.
And let's hope for the peace deal as well. Say
It will come. As long as Pashinyan remains in power, it will come.
yes. Now I'm gonna go change the trajectory of our questions. I'm gonna go to COP29. As I've actually participated at a university today. There was an event held and titled Climate and Water Summit towards COP29. And in that event, several individuals, such as academics, scholars, and government officials, emphasized the importance of this event. Now I'm going to recall to another event that took in Latin, where you've also participated as well, titled COP29 and Green Vision for Azerbaijan in Latin. So how can you assess the importance of this event regarding that it's first time in the region?
You mean COP29?
Yes.
It's the biggest climate-related event in the world, right? And so this is the biggest moment internationally, I think, for Azerbaijan in its history. You know, Eurovision was fun and exciting and got a lot of attention to Azerbaijan, but it's nothing compared with COP29, which is one of the most important international events every year, anywhere in the world. And Azerbaijan is the leader of it. And so Azerbaijan has an amazing opportunity to show the world what Azerbaijan truly is, and that all of these false narratives over the last 30 years that, you know, Azerbaijan can't fight and win a war, that it's going to commit ethnic cleansing or genocide against the Armenians, that these territories will never go back to Azerbaijan. Azerbaijan is broken and is, you know, on a negative trajectory. That's all wrong. COP29 provides Azerbaijan as the co-leader, global leader of this era of the fight against climate change, an unbelievable stage or tribune on which to speak to the world. Of course, first and foremost, about keeping global warming below 1.5 degrees and fighting climate change and protecting the environment, but about much more. This is an opportunity for people to, well, people want Azerbaijan to succeed as the leader of COP29 in general, because the world wants COP29 to succeed. So Azerbaijan has a very good story to tell about its renewable energy investments that were already a huge plan long before it became the leader of COP29. Azerbaijan has a great story to tell as well about an unprecedented rebuilding project in its recovered lands as part of the Great Return, to create green energy zones, right, in those recovered lands. And, you know, if we think more ambitiously, Azerbaijan can use COP29 to then build environmental bridges to peace. In other words, to accelerate the peace process. Not only the peace treaty, but also restoring peaceful, prosperous relations between Armenia and Azerbaijan on one side and Armenia and Turkey on the other side. And what if there could be a green energy zone that's simultaneously on the territory of Azerbaijan in Nakhchivan, let's say, and Armenia and Turkey? What if Pashinyan and President Aliyev were to sign their peace treaty at COP29? Imagine how the world's view of Azerbaijan would change. It would be huge for the entire region. But a lot of pieces still have to come together. And I personally believe Azerbaijan should be more active, not only in leading all the negotiations and logistical preparations for COP29, but also organizing events at COP29 that tells the story about the green energy transition in Azerbaijan, as well as the rebuilding of its recovered lands into green energy zones and smart cities.
Thank you so much, Mr. Matthew Bryza.
Pleasure.
Thank you for your comprehensive insights. And that's it for today, dear viewers of Ednews. Joining us from Istanbul once again was the former U.S. ambassador to Azerbaijan, and it was me from Ednews TV, Akbar Novruz. Thank you so much once again. Don't forget to like and comment. Bye.